Mr. Trutna here. This is Math 2, Unit 4. We're doing Worksheet 1B, where we are solidifying our knowledge and our understanding about mid-segments of triangles. Alright, so let's just dive right into it. We got 14 problems to do. So in numbers 1 through 4, the instructions are telling us to use the diagram. So here's my diagram right here. X is the midpoint of UV, so we know X is the midpoint of UV, so let's go ahead and make tick marks to show that. Y is the midpoint of UW, so let's go double tick marks here to show that. Okay? Alright, so since we know that we have X as a midpoint and Y as a midpoint, that means that segment XY is what is known as a mid-segment. Okay? So what do we know about a mid-segment? Well, two things we know about it. We know, one, the mid-segment is parallel to the third side of the triangle, and then we also know that however long the mid-segment is, it is going to be half as long as however long the third side of the triangle is. Okay, so we're going to use that information. So in number 1, it tells us if the measure of angle UXY is equal to 60 degrees, so let's mark that, UXY, so that would be, if we wanted to know where that angle is, start at U, follow down the shape to X, take a turn for Y. Right at the turn, it's telling us that this angle right here is 60 degrees. We want to find the measure of angle V. So that's the angle that we are looking for right there. Okay, so what we're talking about here in this problem is we are talking about this angle here, which is 60 degrees. And we want to find out how many degrees that angle is right there. And remember, we know that the line, that line segment there, the mid-segment, is parallel to the line segment here, which is the third side of the triangle. Okay, well, that would make, since we have parallel lines, that would make these two angles corresponding angles. Saying corresponding angles are always equal to each other. Therefore, that angle has to be 60 degrees. These two angles are congruent to each other because they're corresponding angles. So number 1, the measure of angle V is equal to 60 degrees. There we go. Moving on to number 2. If the measure of angle W is equal to 45 degrees, so let's mark that. W is 45 degrees. Find the measure of angle UYX. So let's find out where angle UYX is. Start at U. Follow along the shape to Y, take a turn for X, and right at the turn. So we are talking about this angle right here. Okay, so if I colored these, we're given that this angle is 45 degrees. We want to find the measure of that angle right there. And just like in number 1, except for it's on the other side of the shape, those two angles are corresponding angles as well. Corresponding angles are equal when the lines are parallel. Therefore, the measure of angle UYX is also going to have to be 45 degrees. Okay? Number 3, if X to Y is 50, so X to Y is 50 right here, so that's the mid-segment, find V to W. Alright, so V to W would be 100. Alright, so V to W would be equal to 100. Remember, the mid-segment, which is 50, is always half of the third side. Therefore, that would have to be 100. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch out these values here because I'm going to move the number 4 and I'm going to get new values. So number 4, it tells us that V to W is 110. How do we find now the measure of X to Y? Well, to get X to Y, what we would do is we would take 110, and it's half of it, so we would divide by 2. Therefore, X to Y would be 55. Okay? In numbers 5 through 6, the instructions tell us to use the diagram, and here's my diagram over here. And then it says I to J is a mid-segment of triangle FGH. So I to J is a mid-segment of triangle FGH. So what does that mean? It means, remember, to get a mid-segment, you connect two midpoints. So that means that F to I has to be the same as H to I, because I has to be a midpoint. It also means J has to be a midpoint, so H to J has to be the same as G to J. Okay, I to J is equal to 7, so we're going to mark I to J is equal to 7. F to H is equal to 10, so F to H is 10, and the way that you probably want to mark this on this picture is you want to go like this. So that would make that I to F is 5 and I to H is 5. G to H is 13, and the way that we would mark that is G to H is that entire side, so you would probably do something like that. Which would mean that J to G and J to H are half of 13, so both of these are 6.5. Okay, then we're going to find the perimeter of each triangle. So once again, if we're finding perimeter, we haven't talked about that much in this class, but to find perimeter, you add up all the sides. So the first one, we're going to find the perimeter at number 5 of triangle IJH. IJH. So that's the little triangle. So to find that, we're going to add up the 3 sides. We're going to add up I to J, which is 7, J to H, which is 6.5, and H to I, which is 5. So we're going to go 6 plus 7, 6.5 plus 7 plus 5. Okay, and that's going to be equal to 18.5. So there is the perimeter of triangle IJH. Number 6, the perimeter of triangle FGH. So FGH triangle, that's the big triangle. So we're going to take the left side, which is 10. We're going to add it to the right side, which is 13. And then we need to add it to the bottom, which I don't know, but I do know this because this would be the third side with the midsegment 7. Remember, the midsegment is always half of the third side, therefore F to G has to be 14. Adding these 3 values up, we get a perimeter of 37. All right, number 7, 8, and 9, we're going to find the value of x. Okay, so typically when you find the value of x, what you're going to do is you are going to write an equation. Okay, so you're going to have to find 2 values that are equal to each other. So if you notice in number 7, the mid-segment is marked as 2x. The third side of the triangle is marked as x plus 9. So I need to write an equation with those values. Now obviously, my equation is not going to be 2x is equal to x plus 9. Okay, this is no. I've seen a lot of students do this today. Don't do that. Okay, obviously, that line segment is shorter than that line segment. So the question is, what do I have to do to this line segment, the mid segment, to make it equal to x plus 9? And the answer is you have to multiply it by 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the 2x, you have to multiply it by 2, and then it would be equal to the third side of the triangle, which is x plus 9. Okay, 2 times 2x is 4x. That's going to be equal to x plus 9. You would subtract x from each side. That would give 3x is equal to 9. You would divide by 3. Therefore, number 7, x is equal to 3. Okay, there we go. Number 8, we're going to do the same concept. All right, we know that the mid segment is 2x. We know that the third side of the triangle is 10x minus 21. So we're going to make them equal, we're going to take the mid segment and we have to double it. So in other words, we have to multiply it by 2. And then it's going to be equal to the third side of the triangle. Okay, and then I use this equation to solve for x. 2 times 2x is 4x. That's going to be equal to 10x minus 21. Now I'm going to subtract 10x's from both sides of the equation. That'll cancel out the 10x's over here, and I get 4x minus 10x, which is negative 6x. That's going to be equal to, and I have a negative 21, or a minus 21. Divide both sides by negative 6. That would cancel out the negative 6's, and x is equal to positive 3.5. So there's your answer for number 8. X is equal to 3.5. Okay. Number 9, same concept. We know that we have a mid-segment. Its length is represented by the expression 3x. We have a third side of the triangle. Its length is represented by 4x plus 20. So to make them equal, I have to take the mid-segment, 3x. I have to multiply it by 2, and that's going to be equal to the third side of the triangle, which is 4x plus 20. Now watch how I'm going to solve this problem. In number 7 and number 8, I multiplied by 2. Okay, in this one, I'm just going to go ahead and divide everything by 2 right away. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because if you notice, everything gets divided by 2 evenly. That would give me a new equation of 3x is equal to 2x plus 10. And by the way, if you decided to go 2 times 3x and make it 6x, you would end up at the same solution that I'm about to get. Now I would subtract 2x's from both sides of the equation. The 2x's would cancel out. 3x minus 2x is just x, and that's going to be equal to 10. There's your answer to number 9. Okay? You had to do all 14 problems, so we're going to turn it over, and we're going to do the 5 problems on the back side. So number 10. We know that d to f is equal to 24, so let's mark that. Let's see. D to f is equal to 24. So the way that you want to mark that on your paper is you want to go like that and put a line to show that that whole side is 24. And by the way, if you notice, C is a midpoint. So that means that D to C has to be 12 and C to F has to be 12 as well. We also, so I'm going to put a check there. B to C is equal to 6, so I'm going to mark that. So right here, B to C is 6, okay? I'm going to put a check. D to B and D to B is equal to 8. So D to B is equal to 8. I'm going to put a check there. I want to find the perimeter of triangle ADF. So triangle ADF, if you notice, it's the big triangle, okay? So how am I going to do that? I'm going to add up all the sides. So if you notice, this side is 24. So I'm going to go 24 plus the bottom side. Okay, now I don't know the bottom side. But if you notice, the bottom side is the third side of this mid-segment, which is 6. So that means that that has to be 12. So I'm going to go plus 12. Plus this side right here, well, if that's 8, we have the tick mark, so that has to be 8. So that means that entire side has to be 16. So I'm going to go 24 plus 12 plus 16, and that's going to give me a perimeter of 52. Number 11, B to E is equal to 2x plus 6, so I'm going to mark that in my picture. So right here, I'm going to write 2x plus 6. That is a mid-segment from B to E. Okay, D to F is equal to 5x plus 9. So to show in your picture that D to F is 5x plus 9, I'm going to go and I'm going to draw that line right there. So what I'm doing here is I'm comparing this mid-segment right here, 2x plus 6, to the third side of the triangle, which is 5x plus 9. Okay, so those aren't equal, but what do I have to do to make them equal? So I'm going to make them equal, I'm going to take the mid-segment 2x plus 6, and then I have to multiply it by 2. Why do I have to multiply it by 2 to make it equal to the third side? Because remember, the mid-segment is always half of the third side. So to make it equal, you multiply the mid-segment by 2. Okay, now if you notice, I don't want to divide by 2 because 2 does not go into 5 or 9 evenly. So to solve this equation, I'm going to distribute the 2. That would give me 4x plus 12 is equal to 5x plus 9, and I'm going to solve this equation out for x. So I'm going to subtract 4x's from both sides of the equation. Those 4x's over here on the left of the equation would cancel out. My new equation is 12 is equal to x plus 9. Subtracting 9 from both sides gives me an answer of x is equal to 3. Okay, now, is that the answer the problem was looking for? Notice the problem said find d to f. Okay, so x equals 3 is not the answer. I need to find d to f. Well, d to f is represented by the expression 5 times x plus 9. So I'm going to substitute 3 in the value of x. So I get 5 times 3 plus 9. And there go the lights again. So as I'm walking around the classroom, you can hear my voice. There we go. Lights are back on. Okay, the lights always come back on. I never stop believing that they will come back on. Don't stop believing. Extra credit. What's the name of the band that sings that song? Don't stop believing that DF will equal 24. There we go. Okay. All right. So that's D to F. Number 12. No more singing. E to C. If E to C is equal to 3x minus 1, E to C is right here. I'm going to mark that as 3x minus 1. That is a mid-segment. And a to d is equal to 5x plus 7. A to d is that entire side of the triangle. So the way that we show that in a picture is we would write 5x plus 7, and we would draw a line with these little marks here that's showing the entire side is 5x plus 7. Okay, so once again, we recognize C to E, or E to C, as a midsegment. The third side of the triangle would be A to D. Okay, so that means by the rule that midsegment is half of the third side. So to make them equal, I'm going to take the midsegment, the 3x minus 1, I have to multiply it by 2, and then that's going to be equal to the third side, which is 5x plus 7. And now I'm going to solve this equation for x. All right? So I'm going to distribute the 2 into the 3x, that gives me 6x. Distribute the 2 into the minus 1, that gives me minus 2. That is equal to 5x plus 7. Going to subtract 5x's from both sides of the equation. That would give me x minus 2 is equal to, those 5x's cancel, positive 7, I just write 7. Adding 2 to both sides, I get x is equal to 9. Now, just like the previous problem, that is not the answer this problem was looking for, but I'm going to need it. What I was looking for, what it asked me to find, was find e to c. Okay, so I want to find e to c. Well, e to c is represented by the expression 3 times x minus 1. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute 9 in the place of x. So e to c would be 3 times 9, 27. 27 minus 1 gives me 26. So line segment e to c is going to be 26. All right, last one, number 14 or 13, last two, excuse me. Find the value of the variables. So if you notice in number 13, we have a midsegment right here, and its length is 5. And we have a third side of a triangle, so that means that that third side of the triangle is going to have to be 10, and we want to find the value of x, which is the length of this side right here. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do it. Notice this angle is 60. Okay, so that means this angle up here has to be 60 degrees. How did I know that? Well, remember, a midsegment is parallel to the third side, so these lines are parallel to each other, these line segments, which makes these two angles corresponding angles. Then, if you look up here, this little triangle up here, the small triangle, it's got two equal sides, so that means it's isosceles, which means these two sides are the legs, which means the third side, which is 5, is the base, which makes the base angles equal, which makes that angle 60 degrees. Which, by the way, then would make this angle down here is 60 degrees. Okay, now I'm going to do the math, and I'm going to find this angle right here. So watch how I find this angle. I'm going to go 60 plus 60. That's 120. And I'm going to subtract 120 from 180, so that gives me 60. So that angle is 60 as well. So what does that tell me? It tells me that this big triangle right here and the little triangle, all the angles are 60. So that means all the sides are the same. Okay, if all the angles are the same, remember that's called equiangular, and equiangular triangles are equilateral. So if that's 10, that means this side has to be 10, that side has to be 10, x is equal to 10 in number 13. Okay, number 14, we have this line segment right here, which is a mid-segment. It is represented by x. Then we have the third side of the triangle right here, which is represented by the expression 3x minus 6. I want to find the value of x. I want to find the value of y. Okay, so what do? Well, to find the value of x, I'm going to take the mid-segment. I'm going to double it, so that means I'm going to multiply it by 2, and that's going to be equal to the third side of the triangle, which is 3x minus 6. Okay? I've just noticed this hasn't been, copying very well. It's very faint. Hopefully that doesn't translate to, I'm not remaking the video. Okay? Alright, solving this. I get 2 times x is 2x. That's equal to 3x minus 6. I'm going to subtract 3x's from both sides of the equation. That means those 3x's would cancel. 2x minus 3x is negative 1x. That's equal to negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 1. X is equal to positive 6. Okay, so there's my answer for x, positive 6. Now, how am I going to find y? Well, if you notice, y is represented by that segment right there, which is a mid-segment, and then the side that's parallel to that mid-segment, which would be the third side, is that segment right there, which is represented by 2x plus 1. Okay, so that means that right there, oh, by the way, I know what x is. So that means I could substitute an x in here. So that means this is 2 times 6. I said substitute an x. I'm going to substitute a 6 for x. Plus 1. That means that this is 13. So this entire side is 13. Well, a mid-segment is half of that. So y would be equal to 13 divided by 2. 6.5. Okay, there we go. There's your answers. Come to class if you still have questions.